tonight celebrates a first, because tonight is the first in the ConnectedUK series of events, which is a new initiative by a partnership of different trade bodies across the creative industries. It's the IPA, UKIE, PACT and BEMA. And we've got the aim tonight of bringing together the worlds of television, gaming, the web and advertising together through a series of events that's going to run over the next couple of months. And this is an increasingly important area for the creative industries, and it's been much discussed at the government's Creative Industries Council, which all of the trade organisations sit on. And there's no question that together we need to build better skills and better connections in order to maintain our strong position in this ever-changing, converging marketplace. And throughout the event series, attendees are going to hear the latest thinking and experiences from across the converged media landscape, with the first session tonight focusing on content and the others looking at audiences, platforms and investment. And there's going to be an opportunity to discuss the potential for future collaboration across all these areas as well. And what we really hope is that the programme will allow creative industries to join together to share ideas and inspiration and insights in order that we can build on one another's skills and connections and collectively strengthen our position, our UK position, as a creative innovation hub to the world. Now, a bit of housekeeping, because you've always got to do that. Exits, you'll find those, because if we ever need them. But you'll also find feedback forms in your delegate bag. And this is really important to us, because it's the first one we're doing, so really please do spend a couple of minutes just to fill out those forms before you go. Mobile phones, have you got them? Can you get them out? I want to see them. Switch them to silent, but really please feel free to tweet and Twitter the whole way through the event. And as you can see, we've got our hashtag event, yeah, there it is, ConnectedUK. Please use that. And if you've got any questions, either think about them as you're going along, write them along, or just put them on the Twitter feed and we'll come to them as we go on. Really, really want to make sure that at the end we get some really good questions from all of you. Now on to the format for the evening. We're going to have 4 speakers, actually 5, but 4 different sections, who I'm going to introduce one by one. They're each going to speak for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll end up with about 20 minutes collectively at the end for a Q&A. So keep thinking on those questions. So first up, we've got a duo. We've got Rabin Mukerjea and Andrew Hill, who are the founding partners and executive producers at Grand Central Entertainment, which is an independent content agency. And they're going to be sharing with us what they learnt from running the GT Academy, which, if you don't know what that is, you're going to very soon. But basically, a quick synopsis is, it's about where a gamer beat the world to get a seat in the Le Mans race. And if that's not enough, if you're into all that kind of stuff anyway, actually for all of us, they actually won last year at Cannes the gold for branded content. So their hashtag is @GrandCentralEnt, and I'll tell you all of them as we go along. So first up, let's welcome them. Thank you.
I'm Rabin, this is Andrew, thanks for coming. We're going to be divvying up this presentation, there's 2 of us, and I think we'll get on with the story of where GT Academy came from and where it's going in the future.
I think as a content agency we get all sorts of briefs from various sources, and the truth is most of them are from slightly deluded marketing directors who think that the history of Yakult is going to make a fantastic, kind of truly compelling primetime ITV series. Most of those we kind of bat away without a second thought, but something landed on our desk from Nissan in Geneva that really deserved a second look. And it was a simple phone call. We have a problem. Like all great communication ideas, often there's a fantastic problem at the heart of them. And for Nissan's, it's brilliant because it's an 8-year-old's problem. You'll see what I mean. When you dream of racing cars, whether you are 8 or 68, you tend to think of a passionate red Italian Ferrari, a kind of an absolute wonder of German technology, a Porsche. What you very rarely think of is a Nissan Sunny. Maybe if you want a taxi cab on a wet Tuesday evening, yeah, but racing car, no. Which all is a bit of a shame, because that's kind of a real brand problem for Nissan. The truth is, Nissan produced this thing. It's called a GTR, It's faster than a Porsche, it's faster than a Ferrari, it costs half as much. In fact, it's so bad that both William and Harry bought one with their own pennies. We're not allowed to talk about that. In case you haven't realised, some of this is photoshopped. But that's the Nissan GTR. It also happens to be the star of the best and the world's most popular racing game, Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo is produced in Tokyo by a kind of a slightly obsessive Japanese guy called Kazunori-san. We're going to explain what he's in a minute. The game he's produced is absolutely huge. It's sold 60 million titles around the world. If you bear in mind it retails for about $80, you can kind of do the math on that. The game, in its latest incarnation, features 1,000 different cars. And to design each car in the game, this isn't in real life, in the game, takes about 6 months. To give you an idea of his obsessiveness, he spends most of his summers in racetracks around the world recording birdsong to ensure that the sound of the game is absolutely true to the experience of a real racing driver. He also measures the wiper speed on the different cars so that everything kind of absolutely matches what you're going to get in real life. Because he did that, because he's based in Tokyo and because Nissan head office is also in Tokyo, they established a bit of a relationship. So, you know, this obsessive computer programmer spoke to Nissan and said, I want to recreate your Nissan GTR in kind of all its glory in my game. And the question then, can we put kind of those two things together? Can we give Nissan a real kind of sense of performance for its car, and can we prove that this Gran Turismo game is the most realistic kind of gaming platform out there? Thinking caps on. Solution was pretty simple. It's the GT Academy. Rather than taking a real car into the gaming world, we took the virtual world into the real world.
The premise of the Academy is really simple. We wanted to invite Gran Turismo gamers from around the world to go from this. The underpants is optional, but it's basically racing virtual cars in Gran Turismo to this, racing real cars around Silverstone, doing 170 miles an hour, probably with a second pair of underpants needed as well. Once we threw open the offer to turn the gaming experience into a real one, the feedback was phenomenal. We had near 1.5 million downloads of the Gran Turismo game, and then uploads of their top times to compete with gamers around the world. The 11 top countries around the world all had national finals where we invited the 100 fastest gamers from each of those territories to represent their countries, to play against each other, and to sort of self-filter until we were left with the fastest 2 gamers from each of these territories. That meant we had 22 gamers who were going forward to GT Academy. They were expecting a week at Silverstone, which was probably, like you'd imagine, an experience day. So full of racing, full of fun, a week's holiday with cars, which was not what we had prepared. They were going to get a little bit of that, but mainly they were going to be introduced to top F1 trainers and put through pretty horrific and rigorous training and testing that a real racing driver would have to undergo. So some of those challenges over this week at Silverstone included learning to drift a car. For those of you that don't know about this, it's basically learning to drive a car sideways rather than forwards. It's quite impressive. Having to wake up at 3 a.m. with torches shone in their face and complete a SAS assault course. Having to race for 24 hours between them and then get pulled into a press junket and answer a series of questions from journalists, to pretty horrible fitness tests tests to make sure that they were at absolute peak performance and to measure their stamina. To dogfights, and the car in front, we've got a couple of GT Academy contestants. The car behind, we've got a couple of professional F1 drivers, and they had to make sure that they didn't get overtaken, otherwise they lost the challenge, which was pretty hairy for gamers going straight into real life cars. Finally, the other challenge was real dogfights, where we put them in RAF training, not jets, but training planes, to experience G-force at a level that they'd expect to find in the sort of top-level racing cars. And if that wasn't enough, beyond the overcoming sickness, they then had to simulate war games to make sure that they maintained composure under those conditions. Judging the process and basically the gatekeepers to these contestants becoming eventually a winner, we had Eddie Jordan, who's famed for, he's an absolute F1 legend. He ran Team Jordan, the F1 team, a few years ago. We had Johnny Herbert, who's an F1 driver and legend in his own right. And we had the queen of the Nürburgring, who's called Sabine Schmidt, and she's anecdotally known as the only female driver who's beaten Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear. And she was driving a transit van, he was in an M5. So it was a feat. The sort of process of vetting continued until we'd eliminated 21 of the drivers, resulting in one winner. And the prize was no ordinary prize. It wasn't really about a week of experiences. It was about finding, out of the 1.5 million people who applied, one driver who Nissan PlayStation then gave a professional racing contract to race for their team in the GT4 Cup. The entire journey from national finals through to the Silverstone camp, through to the judges' deliberation, and eventually a winner was captured across 6 television episodes. It was 5 half hours and an hour special. And as is the fashion and probably essential these days, there was a long-running social media conversation that was going hand in hand with the television episodes. So as soon as the competition was open for people to enter, the social conversation started, and via Facebook and Twitter we were seeding information on how you could get involved. If you missed it this year, how could you get involved next year? Profiles of the drivers, profiles of the judges, and because gaming and motorsports have got such sort of passionate online hubs, they took what we were feeding on Facebook and Twitter and put it into their own blogospheres, which meant that the conversation just kept rolling and still does to this day. I think you'd be wrong to not be cynical about this. To see, a brand put some guys in a racing car. Ultimately, it's about, did it actually do anything? And we believe it did. The gamers thought so. We had 1.5 million people who wanted to be in the competition. We are in our 4th international series. That means that Nissan and PlayStation, who fully fund the series, are both happy enough for us to continue, touch wood. And the proof is really in this stat. Our GT Academy winner came second at the Le Mans 24-hour. The 3 GT Academy drivers formed a team for the Dubai 24-hour, and they came in third, which, when you think about the fact there were over 50 other racing teams, all of whom had veteran drivers who'd been racing for decades, maybe not decades, but racing for years, it's phenomenal that these guys who quite literally had been twiddling their thumbs 2 years ago were beating seasoned pros at their own game. The broadcasters that we sold the program to were really interested. It's really a classic TV formula of seeing someone who's got a dream and then using a television format to help turn that dream into reality. That meant we had 160 broadcasters around the world interested in the format, who actually showed the format. And the exposure generated by the show is somewhere in the region of £30 million, which is especially satisfying because the whole project cost a fraction of that to put together. We've sort of hit a threshold for where the international series can go. We've produced it. It's got people from 11 countries. It's got obviously 11 languages. So therefore it's sort of subtitled and so on, which means we've got huge global scale. But now we want to focus on getting up the EPG in various countries. So we're going for primetime entertainment, which means single language shows. So we're doing a GT Academy for Russia. We're producing a GT Academy for Germany. We're producing the second GT Academy for the US. So it's really spreading, and each success within the GT Academy family is sort of self-propelling across the brand's funding of it as well. We had a bit of a think about what lessons we could glean from our experience on GT Academy and also our other projects within the world of branded content. And I know how much the industry loves rules. So we went through the cliches, and none of them really ticked the boxes. We thought, is it about telling a great story? Yes, but then there's exceptions to that. Is it about putting the audience first? Yes, but again, there are exceptions. And same with engagement for interruption, which gets banded around a lot. And it's true, but there's also loads of times where it's not the case. Something that we did find that's across all of our work, and we think it would be no bad thing for everyone to embrace it as at the very least a sense check, is to see the benefit of familiarity versus originality. And it's slightly counterintuitive to how a lot of agencies might approach not just content but advertising, in that if you can establish that something is palatable, not just palatable, engaging for an audience, then really you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You should explore how you can do more of that, how you can give them more of this demonstrated working project, which is what happened with GT Academy. You see it happened with compare the Meerkat as an advertising example. It's basically, there's no need to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to, and it's something that broadcasters and producers do day in, day out. We think it would be good for us to do.
I think there's a big difference, I think, with content where you occupy a much bigger sort of platform than a discipline like advertising. And I think particularly with something like content, where you're asking people to invest a lot of time with you, for the most part they want to know what they're investing that in. And if something is familiar, they feel comfortable saying, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour on the sofa with this, with this particular thing. In advertising, I don't think that applies. I think originality is about grabbing attention in a 30-second slot, and quite often being totally original is the way to do that. I think there's a difference between content and kind of commercials in that sense.
Which is sort of all we've got to say about GT Academy for the moment. Hope it's been an interesting story. If you're bored of the content business, maybe you can apply for GT Academy 2012, which is open until the end of June for new entrants. We're going to leave you with a short video, which is our trailer that's gone out to the public, asking gamers to be part of the next one. Thank you.